Well, the calls for the bailouts are really kicking into gear now. All of Wall Street seems to be unanimous. They are all, whether they had an interest in this bank or not, whether they had money at this bank or not, no matter what their firm's net position was on this stock, all of the biggest clowns that you can think of, Bill Ackman chief among them. He's just posting a wall of text on Twitter, taking full advantage of this new feature where you can do more than 280 characters. I have to say, I think it's a big mistake for Twitter to go with this long format. It's just, I just kept scrolling and scrolling, and I just said, you know what, Bill, I'm not reading it. We need to go back to the days of 140 characters. When 280 characters were announced on Twitter, I thought, you know what, that's a good thing. Because 140, it's really hard to fit everything in there. I can use 280. But boy, now that they're going over 280 to this seemingly limitless, I'm pretty sure that Bill Ackman currently will hold the record for the longest tweet in Twitter history, advocating for the bailout of Silicon Valley Bank depositors. Now, for those of you who remember, or for those of you who have ever had a bank account in the United States, you probably know that your deposit is insured up to $250,000. Anything over that, it's your funeral. That's the way the rules are supposed to work. And so if you're a big company or a high net worth individual, and you've got more than $250,000 in the bank, you need to be prudent and make sure that you are choosing a bank that is stable, and or if you're going to keep your money in a bank at all. That's called personal responsibility. So yeah, the government gives you a bit of a safety net. We have this government insurance program to say, okay, up through $250,000, we got your back, but anything beyond that, you're on your own. You need to be responsible. And the problem is that you have all these tech companies in Silicon Valley involved with this bank that was, like I said, it was the bank of the bubble economy. It was the bank of the tech bubble. That is who the customers were of this bank. And so are you shocked that this bank was doing some risky stuff? And perhaps not risky compared to what everyone else does. I don't think that these people saying, the leadership and the management of Silicon Valley Bank needs to be held accountable for what they did. No, from what I've heard so far, they borrowed short and lent long. That's what they did. That's what banks do. That's the definition of banking. That's what all these banks do. And so, if you're against what Silicon Valley Bank was doing and you think that, they should be held accountable, well, what about everybody else? Just the people who aren't bankrupt yet? Is that what you're going to punish Silicon Valley for? Not for what they did, but for the fact that they went broke? Because at the core of their business, from what I've heard so far, I'm sure we'll find out more in the future, but from what's being said so far, they took deposits and they bought, long-term, long-dated securities. It's the same thing that banks always do. It's just like putting out loans. Banks issue loans. That's a long-dated paper in exchange, and they do that by borrowing short with demand deposits. What the maturity, what the time structure of a bank's balance sheet looks like? It looks like every bit of debt that a bank has is due today, because you, the depositors, can request your money on demand. And so every day, all the money that the bank owes is due, technically, because everyone legally has the right to go in and take their money. Now, and as I discussed yesterday, in reality, the government intervenes to make sure people can't get their money out of the bank, and they always tell everyone, oh my gosh, you can't take your money out of the bank, you're a terrorist if you want your money out of the bank. But in reality, that's just the way it is. That's why banks are bankrupt. All of their assets are long dated and their liabilities are short dated. And, for the folks who are upset at Silicon Valley Bank, I welcome you. But you need to hate on. You need to be an equal opportunity hater of fractional reserve banking. So that's what I have to say to those people. To the people like Bill Ackman demanding bailouts, go to hell. I feel no need to be friendly or nice. Bill Ackman's a big boy, so are all these other folks. The people who are getting burned in this Silicon Valley Bank collapse, they're big boys and girls, okay? This is the real world. Stop crying like a bitch because you got burned, okay? We all get burned. We all have bad deals. And you know what? A lot of people go bankrupt. You know, that's called counterparty risk. It's something that they probably teach in business school. I didn't go to business school, but they probably taught you folks that. You, as a financial entity, you're only as solvent as your creditors. I'm sorry. You're only as solvent as your debtors. There I went, getting things confused. I hope I didn't mix anybody up there. Your debtors meaning the people who owe you money, okay? And so if your net worth is tied up in debt that you own, debt that is owed to you, debts to you, owed by other people or other corporations, other entities, you yourself are only as solvent as those debtors. And what is the relationship between a depositor and a bank? The bank is the debtor, and the depositor is the creditor. You are lending the bank money. And so if you are a major, substantial Silicon Valley, multi-billion-dollar company, and you decide to lend all of your cash or most of your cash to one particular bank, it is reasonable for you to accept that risk. Because no one forced you to put all your money at that bank. No one forced you to put tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars at Silicon Valley Bank. It's not like there weren't other banks you could have chosen from. It's not like you couldn't have spread your money out around different banks. These big tech companies, or I shouldn't say, they're not the big tech companies. These are still huge companies as far as we're concerned, as far as normal people are concerned, but they're not big in terms of the tech space. But nevertheless, they are very big companies. They should know better. And if they didn't, it's not our fault. And it's not our problem. That's your problem. By the way, one of the executives at Silicon Valley Bank, he was the CFO of Lehman Brothers. That's who was in charge, one of the people in charge of Silicon Valley Bank. Now, unfortunately, if I may comment on something that Zero Hedge said, Zero Hedge recommended to Silicon Valley Bank that, what they should have done is, try and faked it long enough until there was a really big bank that crashed, and then everyone would have gotten a bailout. And so you only have to hold out until one of the big guys like Chase or Citi, or actually, Citigroup's still around. Yeah, of course, Citigroup has to be around, right? Anyway, Bank of America, any of the big cats on Wall Street, wait for one of them to go bust, and then you can come out and go bust with everybody else, because once one of the too big to fail banks goes, then everyone's guaranteed a bailout. Once they start bailing out one bank, then all the banks are going to get a bailout. But when you're the first to go, it really sucks, because the bailouts haven't started yet, and hopefully they never come. I'm a little too cynical. I don't think that the bailouts will be able to be stopped forever, but we should oppose them at every stage. It's as simple as that. Bailouts at best make the situation worse. That's the best case scenario. How do they do that? Well, not only do they steal money from ordinary people, either in the form of purchasing power or tax dollars, they just perpetuate an unsustainable situation, a situation that I've been, complaining about on this channel since the first week, probably, that I started on YouTube. The situation has only gotten worse, and these sorts of institutions are just not viable. So, while I have no illusions about us moving into a post-fractional reserve banking future in which we have, fully capitalized banks, I think we could at least be in for some fireworks. And maybe we will see a reset of asset prices, which would be nice. Housing prices, of course, ridiculous, out of control, propped up by this bubble economy and by our financial system. I think that housing prices are the single greatest evil brought upon by the financial system, because even if you divorce yourself from finance, even if you're not associated with any of these banks, even if you don't play on Wall Street, you still need somewhere to live. And these people have horribly distorted the price of housing. It is hundreds and hundreds of percent higher than it should be. And so for that reason alone, these clowns, they need an extinction level event, to use a phrase that's been bouncing around a lot on FinTwit this week. We need a financial supernova to wipe out asset prices and to wipe out the finance bros who have priced us all out of being able to live just about anywhere. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.